Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And in this episode, we're going to do a follow-up to yesterday's great news that the Tavistock Trust in London is closing. This, if you remember, is the hospital, if one can call it that, where thousands upon thousands of children were experimented upon and sterilised. They were handed out puberty-blocking drugs, hormonal changing drugs, and even forced down towards surgery at the whim of the people who work there, often without informed consent, regularly without psychiatric or psychological evaluation, sometimes simply at the behest of the children, sometimes at the behest of their woke parents. Sometimes they never even saw a consultant. Lives have been ruined, futures destroyed, children sterilised. And these monsters did this for years and years, and nobody held them to account until now, and they're being closed. And we're going to do this follow-up article which shows a bit more in depth and a few more of the horror stories. So hold on to your hats and we'll go for it. So here we are, the revelations by brave whistleblowers that finally brought disgraced gender clinic Tavistock down, thank heavens. Children rushed onto life-altering puberty blockers, doctors converting gay children into thinking they're trans, and mental health issues were brushed aside. Now, I mentioned this yesterday about the mental health. I think the term I used was when you've only got a hammer, every problem's a nail. Children might be going there with any number of mental issues. But as soon as they went through that door, this clinic was going, oh, yes, 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 trans. But it's grief, doctor. Yeah. Trans, have these pills. Trans, have these pills. And there's a reason they were doing it. The UK's sole child gender clinic was ordered to close its doors yesterday following decades of controversy. And that's the reason. It was the sole one. It's where everyone went. No one had a choice, so they could make lots of money. They had the monopoly. They were making money. And they had to keep that money coming in. So everything became a trans issue. Push. Keep the funds coming. We'll all, doubles and trebles all round. And that's why they destroyed lives. The closure finally came after a probe into concerns among whistleblowing staff, patients and parents. Well, finally, after 17 years. The London-based Gender Identity Development Service has treated 9,000 children, some as young as 10, since 1989. Now think about this. You're taking a 10-year-old who probably don't know that much about the way of the world. He's a bit confused. You're wandering him into a clinic and they're going, oh yeah, okay, look, yeah, you're trans, take these pills. These are gender blockers. Sorry, these are puberty blockers. And you're a young boy, so you keep taking that. You will never develop into a man. Now think about that. You will never develop into a man. Now, we haven't assessed you. We haven't given you a psychological test or a psychiatric testing or anything. So we don't know if you're gender dysphoric or just a bit sad or just a bit confused. But what we're going to do is right away give you these drugs and take away your manhood. Take away your adult life. Because it could just be that you're not trans, you're just a bit confused. Or it could be that you're gay. And we've just destroyed your life. You will be a child forever. Oh, and then we'll cut your ghoulies off. And we'll turn you in, give you a nice little tuck. You'll look like a lady down there. You'll never be a lady. You'll simply be a small boy with no penis. Mentally, what are they doing to that child, who will remain a child for the rest of his life? Physically, what are they doing? Emotionally, what are they doing? Psychologically, what are they doing? These people are like Dr. Mengele. They're performing things that were last performed in the 30s in camps in Germany. They're no different. They need to be prosecuted for this. They have destroyed children. They have removed their futures. They have sterilised thousands. And for what? But former patients claim they were rushed to change gender without mental health being properly assessed, as I've just said. Medics described a climate of fear about being labelled ist or phobe by managers and colleagues. Yeah, I don't think that child is that, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're a phobe, you're an ist, you're a phobe. I'll keep your mouth shut then because I don't want to lose my job. So keep your mouth shut if you know what's good for you. that was the climate that they had. Even though you were watching a child go through things that you knew wasn't right. And people complained, and people have been complaining since 2005. Why hasn't there been investigations in 2005? Why haven't there been ongoing investigations for years and dragging these doctors into court, suing them for damages, and then throwing what's left of their carcass into jail for, the rest of their lives? Because what they've done to the children is destroyed the rest of their lives. The UK's sole child gender clinic was ordered to close yesterday following more than a decade of allegations that it rushed teenagers onto life-altering puberty-blocking drugs. It was finally brought down after a probe into claims from brave whistleblowers who had been raising concerns about practices at the trust for 17 years, of which only recently has there been an investigation. 17 years. Who is not investigating this for the last 17 years? The North London GIDS, Gender Identity Development Service, part of the Tavistock and Portman NHS Foundation Trust, has treated 9,000 children as young as 10, sterilised thousands and thousands of children for the last 34 years. But it has faced a myriad of accusations from staff and former patients, with patients claimed they were rushed to change gender without having their mental health assessed. Medics described a climate of fear about being labelled transphobic by managers and colleagues if they questioned the service's approach. In other words, as I say, keep your mouth shut or you lose your job. Dr. Hilary Cass, a top paediatrician leading an NHS-commissioned review into the Tavistock, last week told health chiefs that the centre needed to be overhauled after speaking to dozens of whistleblowers. Concerns were first raised about the clinic in 2005, when Sue Evans, a nurse there, warned that youngsters were being assessed too quickly, and this is important, and their treatment was influenced by transgender rights groups. Now, I'm going to make a mention of that, but I'm going to do the next line because this is all related. She accused staff, some of whom said they previously worked at transgender charities, such as Mermaids and Gendered Intelligence, of immediately affirming children's beliefs rather than trying to understand all the difficulties the child was experiencing, and some referred patients for puberty blockers after just 4 appointments. Now, she said it herself. She said there were people working at a hospital that meant to give out objective advice, and these people had previously worked for the likes of Mermaids, which is a quote charity, and it needs its charity status stripped. A charity aimed at transgender children and pushing a trans agenda at children, who then go and work for the country's only gender clinic. So, of course, any child that comes through the door, they're pushing that agenda. Now, I've said on this channel many, many times, the trans lobby are constantly pushing for children. Their agenda, they're pushing that agenda of the trans agenda, but they're pushing it at children all the time on the likes of TikTok. Unregulated, push. But they're getting into clinics, and they're pushing it in clinics, and they're working for charities, and they're pushing it in charities, and they keep targeting children. Now, these people are dangerous. They represent an absolute danger to the well-being of children. They need to be on a register. They are no different from peas, and by peas I mean those who are attracted to the very young. You know exactly what I mean. These transgender activists are no better than peas, and we as society need to treat them exactly the same. They need to be shunned. They need to be put on a register. They need to be watched. They need to have every single piece of equipment they own inspected, hard drives, phones, everything on a regular basis. They need to have zero contact with children. They are damaging children. They are a threat to children, and they should be nowhere near children. They should be kept out of schools, libraries, anything like that. These mentally ill activists that wear woman face, because there's no other term for it, they're not women, they're men who wear women face. And we should treat women face in society the same as we treat blackface or yellow face. If a white performer suddenly puts on black makeup and says "Loiks a lordy," he would be off that stage, his career destroyed in seconds. Why is it acceptable to have woman face? Well, let's make it unacceptable. The drugs cause physical changes in puberty, such as the development of breasts or facial hair. Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, who are vying to be the next PM, last night vowed to crack down on their use in children, hinting they could be outright banned for under 18s. And if you're banning puberty blockers for under 18s, that's effectively banning puberty blockers, because by the time you're 18, puberty is done. Little is known about their long-term effects, and almost all patients who receive them go on to start treatment with cross-sex hormones, which cause irreversible changes, such as breast development and deepening of the voice. They can also cause infertility. Mrs. Evans flagged her worries to the Tavistock clinical management team, but they only became public years later. An internal report by David Bell, who was on the Tavistock's board, set out how patients were suffering long-term damage because GIDS could not stand up to the pressure from highly politicised campaigners and families. In other words, they were weak at the knees and jelly-spined in the face of the trans lobby. Bell accused the Trust of providing woefully inadequate care, and that staff had very serious ethical concerns about children making life-changing decisions with inadequate assessment or consent. Now, this is a board member saying that, and yet nothing was done. Later that month, consultant psychotherapist Dr. Marcus Evans, who had worked at the Trust for decades and whose wife Sue first raised the concerns about his practices, resigned in protest at the Tavistock's response to doctors who raised the alarm. He accused the Trust of creating a climate of fear and tried to dismiss or undermine concerns, while 25 other clinicians signed a letter complaining about the attitude of managers. Following the publication of his report, Dr. Bell received letters threatening disciplinary action, including vague allegations of bullying, because they can't prove anything, they can't say anything because he said nothing wrong. So, we'll go vague, It's mafia. Hey, nice job. Shame if you lost it. You know? These people are scum. His warnings triggered a subsequent report by Dr. Dinesh Shinha, the Trust's medical director, but while this admitted staff had excessive workloads and faced lobbying, he concluded the service was safe. He's been got at. But the Trust continued to come under fire. In 2019, Dr. Kirsty Entwistle, psychologist at GIDS Leeds branch, went public with accusations that staff misled patients and made decisions about young people's bodies and lives without robust evidence. Yeah, whip them in, off with the ghoulies, get them out, send them with a voucher and Boots buy some makeup. She said some of the children had suffered very traumatic early experiences, such as being abandoned by their parents, SAA, DV or poverty. The factors were minimised or dismissed by staff who referred patients for treatment without exploring or addressing these problems. Medics who suggested children's early experiences were linked to their desire to transition were at risk of being called phobic, Dr. Entwistle said. And that is why they're closing this. And there's Kira Bell who sued them. And now, this woman, she's filed a claim. She actually, I'm going to have to move my picture up here a bit. There we go. Sonia Appleby. Now, she filed a claim with an employment tribunal because they tried to stop her from carrying out her role when staff raised concerns, and she said it was she was safeguarding children. She was being targeted and bullied because she was showing concern for the children and not for the clinic. And she was awarded quite a lot of money because she won. Basically, she was the one safeguarding the children's rights. So, Sonia, hat tip, thank you very much. Look after those children. I'm going to come up now because it's been going on quite some time, but it's just a terrible thing. But it's been going on years and years and years, and nobody was dealing with it. People were complaining left, right and centre, and people were getting threats and accusations made against them and all sorts of things because this monopoly on abuse of children wanted to continue. Anyway, I'm going to come up and we'll round off. So the revelations that there have been complaints for 17 years. There has been numerous complaints by people within the organisation. There's been senior members of the organisation up to board level, all of them complaining. And then they have allegations of bullying made against them. They have complaints about their work ethic made against them. This is a criminal organisation. This needs to be treated as a criminal organisation. The police need to investigate and the CPS needs to prosecute. Heads need to roll, and a lot of heads, they need to roll straight into Pentonville and do 20 years. But at least it's closed now. No more children will have their lives destroyed. But as I say, imagine the horror of a 10-year-old having his entire adult life removed on the whim of an agenda-driven trans lobbyist. And that's why I say that these trans lobbyists are danger. They're a danger to children. They're a threat. And they should always be perceived as a threat to children. They're not safe. They are no better than peas. Treat them like that and you won't go far wrong. Anyway, I'm going to finish there. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notification of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, protect your children, and goodbye.